All right, thank you, 5th and 6th graders. Now listen, we are back here this morning for a very important assembly today. The message is incredible. Last year we had Mr. Peace come, who is here with us again today, to talk about respecting differences and respecting others, and making sure that we're treating others the way that we want to be treated. There's no better message than that. Today we're going to talk about anti-bullying, how we're supposed to treat others, and looking for the best in others. So we are very excited to have Mr. Peace back with us to extend the message that he gave us last year. I know that you'll be a respectful audience, that you will listen, you will pay attention, and hopefully learn something from the assembly today. So let's give a warm welcome for Mr. Peace.
All right. Wow. It seems like I was just here yesterday, but it's so awesome to be back. I'm so blessed and got to look at all these drawings that you guys made me. This is pretty sweet. This is a great welcome, so thank you. I see some people wearing the One Race Human shirts too, so I appreciate that. How I usually start, obviously, is we open with a little bit of hip-hop. And is that okay with you guys? All right, 2 fingers up for peace. And let's rock it. You can hit us up, Erica. Thank you. Great to be back. Mitchell, good seeing you guys. Much love. You can bring it up a little bit. Yeah, bring it up in my headphones. That's good right there. Listen up. Check it. It's love over hate, it's peace over war. It's the dream that elevate and kindly live for. But now it's our time to keep doing right, because we know in just 2 seconds we can save a life. It's love over hate, peace over war. It's the dream that elevate and kindly live for. But now it's our time to keep doing right, because we know in just 2 seconds we can save a life. Mr. Peace, empty heart, just to see that my dreams are as empty as my conscience seems to be. You still can't see my dreams, then you need LASIK surgery. I'm seeing 2020 and living life efficiently. The moment I arrive, I'm just by what I live like that, which makes me come alive. It's just not fair. I'll keep making strides on me, acceptable remains. I flourish and I'll thrive with the flow of my remains. To the people, I'm my passion. The reason that I'm rapping, bringing glitter, satisfaction, helping to feel a dream and extra life. Inspiration for your fight is exploration. Love is what I'm strapping, the will to make it happen. Love over hate, peace over war. It's the dream that elevate and kindly live for. Now it's our time to keep doing right, because we know in just 2 seconds we can save a life. Life. You bring it down. All right. Now we're warmed up. Now we're warmed up. I like that sound system. So what I said in that song, that track, I just said that it's love over hate, it's peace over war. It's the dream that MLK and Gandhi lived for. But now it's our time to keep doing right, because we know in just 2 seconds we can save a life. And you know what Martin Luther King Jr. had said, his dream was that he said, one day I want to live in a country where my children aren't judged by the color of their skin or what's on the outside, but rather what's on the inside and the content of their character, right? And you see, this talk today is about us being this global family, just like my shirt says, right? One race human. Can you go to the next slide? Just like my shirt says, one race human. But that means we have to see each other as human beings before anything else, right? And what's crazy, I was just with my youth group, because I'm also a full-time, bring my mic down a little bit, I'm also a full-time youth pastor at a church in Detroit, Michigan, right outside Detroit, Michigan. And we were helping at a soup kitchen. And these people were coming through that needed a meal, some of these homeless people. And so I'm serving like the mashed potatoes. It's kind of like an assembly line. And people keep coming, and I got this one lady standing next to me, and she's doing the gravy. And so we keep going and just give the tray to the next person that needs this help. But she tells me she was there 2 months earlier. She was there 2 months earlier. And she served him just like I was serving that day, randomly just had her head down, and then randomly looked up. And standing across from her was her brother. And she hadn't seen him in 15 years. And he had fell on hard times. He was living on the streets. And so she just dropped what she's doing and she ran across the counter and she hugged him and they started crying. But the whole point of the story was that's how we should be treating everybody all the time. Like they're our brother, like they're our sister, right? But sometimes certain things stop us from doing that. I had a friend of mine who was at a Coney Island at this restaurant, right? About 4 years ago. You guys been like a Coney Island before? Gotten like a hot dog or anything like that, Coney dog? Well, he was there, and he gets there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he beats the lunch rush. So it's just him and the wait staff and the cooks inside this Coney Island. And he goes to sit down by this bar stool where he usually sat to order his meal. And his meal comes and he starts eating. Well, 10 minutes later, this total stranger walks into the Coney Island. And this guy could have sat at any other table or booth or stool down the way, but he chooses to sit right next to my friend. And my friend just had a long day at work. He just wanted to be left alone. So in his mind, he's thinking, couldn't you have sat somewhere else? But he didn't say that. So this stranger that sits next to my friend, he just starts to unload. He said he just left the doctor's office. And something in his heart led him to start driving randomly to this Coney Island, to this parking lot, to this restaurant, walk in, and then randomly sit next to my friend. And so for the next hour, which is the amount of time I had with you guys again today, for the next hour, this stranger just starts to unload all this stuff in his heart. And he says he just left the doctor's office. He's 38 years old. And he was just diagnosed with terminal cancer. And he has under 6 months to live. And he tells my friend all this. And he says that he's a multimillionaire. He has a mansion in Michigan. He has a mansion in California. He's got boats and cars and all this money from starting his computer company right out of college. So he's only told, though, now he has under 6 months left to try to enjoy all these things. He has a wife, 2 kids. He has under 6 months left to enjoy all this stuff that he's worked 20-hour days for, weekends, sacrificed vacations for, his other dreams for, to build this empire. Under 6 months to enjoy all these things, but also under 6 months left to make things right to people that he's hurt along the way. Because the way that this guy got ahead, that he told my friend, was that he would crush other people's spirits in the process. He would stomp on other people's hearts. And it started in middle school, and high school, and college, and beyond. He would bully people to get ahead. Only to be told now he has under 6 months left to try and make things right to people that he's hurt, to ask for forgiveness to people that he's hurt. So my friend leaves the Coney Island, he puts his car in reverse, and he throws it back in park. And his head just hits the steering wheel, and he starts crying. Because he realized this total stranger, in 45 minutes time, in an hour, had a bigger impact on his heart and on his life than people he's known for 30 years. Guys, the biggest reason that I drive so far to come and speak to people like you, or go out to Milwaukee or California or Texas, is to let you guys know you have that same power. And sometimes it doesn't take 45 minutes. Sometimes it's 2 seconds. Sometimes it's a smile. I got a friend of mine. Her name is Deb. She's 50 years old. And back in high school, she wasn't that popular, kind of just average, right? But she always made it a point to smile at this one girl every day. She'd pass her in the hallway, and she'd smile at this really popular, pretty, tall girl. And this girl was like the head goose. She had like her crew behind her like a flying V when she walked through the hallways like this, and she never smiled. But my friend Debbie would always smile at her. So senior year comes, and it's time for senior pictures, right? So you pass them out, usually like on a table, kind of like their Pokemon trading cards. Like, okay, I'll take this one, I'll take this one. But that's not how she got one from this girl. She was walking through the hallway like she always did, smiling at her. And this girl stuck her arm out in front of Debbie's face and said, "Here, take it." And it was a senior picture. And she put it in her pocket. And she got home that night, she pulled it out. She turned it over. She turned it over. And on the back were the words that said, "Your smile saved me. Your smile saved me." You don't know how many storms I was going through the last 4 years of high school. My parents on the verge of divorce, always fighting. And I came to school looking like I was doing okay, but inside I was screaming. I was hurting so much. Go to the next slide. And you know, guys, sometimes we feel like everything's great on the outside and we put that mask on. And we kind of put that paintbrush on to make everyone feel like we're okay. But inside we're hurting. And I shared some of my pain last time with you guys, right? Can you go to the next slide too? I shared some of my pain with you guys, but you know, I remember it clearly one time that I had this dream, and I don't tell fake dreams, okay? I always tell real dreams. But I was dreaming, and there were these two polar bears in my dream. There were these two polar bears, and they were talking in this corner, and I overheard what they were saying, and they said, "Why don't we try to steal Mr. Peace's Jeep?" And the one polar bear is like, "Well, what would you do for a Klondike bar?" He's like, "Well, I would steal his Jeep." And I was like, "What? Like, I heard you guys saying you're going to steal my Jeep." So they get in my Jeep and they start driving away. I'm chasing after them. I'm like, "Guys, come on." And the polar bears are really big, right? And so I latch onto the car and I'm driving and like getting pulled on my Jeep. And I'm like trying to pull them out of there. And then I remember this polar bear just biting my arm. And I remember waking up and not feeling anything because I was so numb to all the pain that was going on in my heart and in my life. And a lot of times you always hear the question on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel, right? But more importantly, on a scale of 1 to 10, how many of us feel? Because if we stop feeling, if we stop caring, if we stop treating people the way we're supposed to. You go to the next slide. But look, here's the idea. Even though sometimes we're broken and we have this pain, we're still okay. And all of us have billions of nerve endings in our body. So we're going to feel pain at some time in our life. Maybe we're feeling it right now. But we always have a choice how to respond to that pain, guys. And look, we never, ever have to go it alone. We never have to go it alone. So storms sometimes have to happen in order for rainbows to appear, in order for new life to spring up. Can you go to the next slide? So look, this is a story about butterflies. It's a story about butterflies, and this guy was doing his dishes, right? He's doing the family's dishes, and he's looking out the window of their kitchen, and he sees this butterfly, this soon-to-be butterfly, but it's a caterpillar right now. It's struggling to get out of this cocoon. It's like noon, like 12 p.m. And he's thinking to himself, like, how can I maybe help this thing out? But he's like, I'm going to give it some time. So he comes back 3 hours later, after the dishes are dry and he's putting away, looks outside, and this caterpillar's maybe moved a millimeter. He's like, oh my gosh, I gotta help this thing out. So he runs outside with a pair of scissors, and he cuts the slit, and the caterpillar just falls right out. Easily. But what he just did is he doomed this butterfly from even being a butterfly. Because you know what? It needs the struggle. When the caterpillar is going to try to get out, fluid's getting pumped through its wings and through its body to make it a butterfly. So sometimes we need these struggles, we need the pain to kind of make us stronger people too, and keep going forward if we can still focus on the positive. You go to the next slide. See this dot right here? Can you guys see it in the back? Okay, if you can't, that's kind of the point. But there was this guy that went to a cancer institute, and he talked to all these patients that had cancer. And he said, I want you to pretend that your cancer is this dot, and the white space is all the great things still going on in your life. All your dreams, all your hopes, your friends, your family, your health that you still have, the air in your lungs. And if we focus on the positive, we can change things, right? In our school, in our homes, in our community. And look, there was this Cherokee, this grandfather, this Native American, and he was talking to his grandson and telling him a story. And he said, there's a battle that goes on in all of our hearts between two wolves. One wolf is evil, it's hate, it's pride, it's revenge, it's violence. And the other wolf in our hearts is, it's good, it's peace, kindness, compassion, respect. So the grandson is looking at his grandfather. He says, well, grandfather, which wolf wins? And he said, the one that you feed. The one that you feed. So if we choose love over hate and peace over fear, that's the one that wins in our lives, right? And look, guys, everything in our life is a choice. Life's 1% what happens to us. It's 99% how we respond to this, right? We always have a choice. Can you go to the next slide? But here's the problem. Here's the problem, Mitchell. Every one of us, we're all human beings, right? But every one of us, on average, we take 60 to 78,000. We have 60 to 78,000 thoughts per day. That means you're having 50 to 60 thoughts per minute. This could be whether you choose to go to the bathroom right now or not, whether you choose to eat Frosted Flakes or Captain Crunch for breakfast, whether you choose to put your right pant on before your left pant, whether you choose to listen to one word I have to say today. But listen, take a guess, out of these 60 to 78,000, what percentage of them are negative in nature? What do you think? What do you think, out of all the thoughts we have, what percentage are negative? What do you think? How many? No, more than one. How much? What do you think? What percent? What do you think? Half? Bigger than half. What do you think? Yeah. 68? Higher than 68. What do you think? Less than 95? Higher than 3/4? Higher than 79? Less than 81? 80. That's a good guess. Listen, can you go to the next slide? 80% of our thoughts are negative in nature. So if somebody calls us a mean name and we believe that, that same negative record keeps spinning in our minds, in our hearts. Go to the next slide. And out of all these thoughts per day, 98% are the same ones you had yesterday. Because we're creatures of habit. We keep thinking the same stuff. And if we keep thinking the same negative thing, then it keeps going through our hearts and it goes on to other people too. How many of you guys had food poisoning before? Food poisoning? Anybody? All right, hands down, hands down. Listen, I had food poisoning once from Taco Bell. But I'm not going to get into the details, okay? But listen, here's why I'm sharing this. Listen, Mitchell, when we have food poisoning, our body rejects it in more areas than one. But the idea is that our body rejects it, right? But if we kind of poison our mind, and someone says that you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not enough, and you believe that, your mind and heart doesn't know the difference. It just believes whatever you tell it, right? So listen, guys, we have to choose something that's more positive in our hearts. We have to do what's right. Can you go to the next slide? This is my friend, Irene Kopko. Everybody say Irene Kopko. Irene Kopko is 103 years old. 103! That's a little bit older than you. But listen, Irene, she still emails. She doesn't do Snapchat or Instagram, Twitter, but she still emails. And Irene, I was at her birthday party kicking it, some chocolate, fudge, frosty, gooey, kicking it. It was so good. And I said, Irene, you're 103 years old. Tell me about your life. Tell me the good times and the bad times and the sad times and the mad times and the glad times and the times where I'm with Ed. And she said, Mr. Peace, my most painful memory was back in 4th grade. And she remembered it like it happened yesterday. It was still raw in her heart. It was still raw in her heart. Over 90 years ago, she was in 4th grade. And she was in the front of the class, and she was giving a presentation. And this boy came up from behind her. And he made fun of her because of her height, because she was short, and because of her weight, because she was heavier than some of her classmates. And and it just destroyed her. It crushed her in front of everybody. It wasn't until she was 40 years old that she finally forgave this boy in her heart. And then she became a youth worker to help other people, other students that were going through what she was going through. So sometimes doing the right thing means the right thought, the right choice is to forgive other people, right? I have a friend named Dwayne. And he told me that back in middle school, he used to tease this girl. He used to tease this girl that was born differently than a lot of us. She was born with a handicap, she was in a wheelchair, and she learned slower than some of her classmates. And he would tease this girl, him and his friend, for 2 years straight. 2 years straight. And guess what? He moved away, didn't even think about it. But then he moved back in high school, his junior year, 11th grade. And he saw this girl in a local supermarket. And he turned down the aisle with his mom. And as soon as he saw her, he just started walking the other way. And he starts crying, telling me the story, saying that, "You don't want to be me." He felt so guilty how he treated this girl just a few years back. How much he had hurt her, how much pain he had caused. He finally went up to her and asked for forgiveness. So sometimes the right thing to do is not just forgiving others, but it's asking for forgiveness from people that we've hurt too, right? I have this friend of mine, she's a counselor from the state of Indiana. And she's an elementary school counselor. And she told me her most painful memory was back in second grade. Back in second grade. It was 40 years ago. And guess what? She was at the front of the class. The teacher brought her up there. Her name was Elizabeth. The teacher said, "Hey class, we have to teach Elizabeth how to do math because she's too stupid to do it herself." This is what the teacher said. It humiliated her. She thought to herself that she's not smart enough. She just kept playing the same record in her mind. But then guess what? She became an elementary school counselor, especially focused on second graders, because she said what happened to me will never happen to my students on my watch at my school. So she started to help other people out too. And I was doing a talk one time, guys, actually right here in Connecticut, and this 7th grade teacher came up and she interrupted my assembly. She said, "Hey guys, everybody, Mr. Peace, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I just got to share something on my heart." I said, "Yeah, go ahead." She said her most painful memory was 35 years ago, back in 7th grade. And her first name was Kate. And she said she was the new girl at school. And right before lunch, this group of popular girls came up to Kate and said, "Kate, go get your lunch and then come and sit by us today. Go get your lunch and then come and sit by us." And she's like, "Are you serious? Like, are you joking? Is this a joke?" They said, No. Go get your lunch and then come sit by us." So she grabs her lunch out of the lunch line and she walks over to their table and she sits down. And as soon as she sits down, all the girls stand up on their chairs and they shout across the lunchroom so everybody can hear them. They say, "Hey everybody, check out Kate. She came in afford nice clothes." And she drops her lunch and runs out crying. And you see, Kate's parents, they didn't have a lot of money growing up, so sometimes she was forced to wear the same outfit 3 times a week to school. And she was teased because of that and put down. Well, she became a 7th grade teacher because she said, "What happened to me will not happen to my students on my watch at my school." She started to become healed in her heart. She forgave those girls in her heart. And now she was fully in to this world, to this planet that needs people like you and me to stick up for people and to do what's right. I want to show you a quick video. And this is a school, a middle school. It's actually from where I live, Michigan, the Mitten State. And this middle school, this football team, they included a boy named Keith, who is special needs. So I want you guys to pay attention, and then we're going to talk about it. You guys can play that on the road. Thank you.
We end tonight with the football play of the month. It was
You just got to escape out of there, though.
amazing precision by the Eagles, the Olivet Eagles. Steve Hartman has the play and the post-game analysis on the road.
Between classes, they schemed and conspired. For weeks, the football players here at Olivet Middle School in Olivet, Michigan secretly planned their remarkable play.
Did anybody go, this is a crazy idea?
No, everyone was in on it.
Well, like the coaches didn't know anything about it. So we were like going behind their back.
I've just never heard of a team coming up with a plan to not score.
It's just like to make someone's day, make someone week, just make them happy.
The play, which was 2 plays actually, happened at a home game earlier this month. The first part of their plan was to try to get as close to the goal line as possible without scoring, even if it meant taking a dive on the 1-yard line, which it did. The crowd was not happy. Quarterback Parker Smith.
But us kids knew, hey, we got this. This is our time. This is Keith's time.
Keith Orr is the little kid in the brown jacket. He's learning disabled, struggles with boundaries, but in the sweetest possible way. Because of his special nature, it's no surprise that Keith embraces his fellow football players. What is surprising is how they have embraced him.
We thought it'd be cool to do something for him.
Because we really wanted to prove that he was part of our team and he meant a lot to us.
Nothing can really explain getting a touchdown when you've never had one before.
Which brings us to part 2 of their play. If you didn't see Keith, it's because they were so protective of him. But he was in the middle of that rush.
And when you crossed the goal line, what was that like?
Awesome. It was like, did he just score a touchdown?
Get your camera out.
Like, oh, dude, I can't.
Keith's parents, Carrie and Jim, almost missed the moment, but they got the significance.
Somebody's always going to have his back from now until the day he graduates.
She's right. When the football team decides you're cool, pretty much everyone follows suit. Today, Keith is a new kid, although by no means was he the only one who was profoundly changed.
What was it like for you?
It was like once I saw him going, I was smiling like about like here.
Wide receiver Justice Miller.
Like nothing could wipe that smile off my face.
Why did it affect you so much?
Because like he's never been like cool or popular, and he went from being like pretty much a nobody to making everyone's day.
Justice admits the play wasn't his idea.
I would have not really thought about that.
He says it never crossed his mind to give Keith any glory.
Well, I kind of went from being somebody that mostly cared about myself and my friends to caring about everyone and trying to make everyone's day and everyone's life.
Which may just make that touchdown the most successful football play of all time. Steve Hartman on the road in Olivet, Michigan.
So look, Mitchell, this is so cool, right? Give me 5, 4, 3, 2, peace, thank you. Listen, this is so sweet because this football team, it took a lot of courage to include Keith, who was obviously born differently than a lot of us. Because for them to take a knee on the 1-yard line, I don't know if you heard the crowd, but some of the parents got really mad, especially the quarterback's parents. Like, why didn't you score? What's wrong with you? He's like, well, I wanted to do this to help Keith out. But the other team too was like, why didn't you guys score? You guys had an open lane to the end zone. Why didn't you walk in? And this other team, they could have tried to block him. They could have tried to not let Keith come in or stop this play. But as soon as they saw what was happening, and some of the parents too, it changed their hearts. Everybody on the field that day, they actually let him come in so he wouldn't get hurt, this other team. Because what they realized is that who won or lost the game, it wasn't as important anymore as making this person feel welcome into this world. And what's even sweeter about this is that for the rest of the school year, not only was he accepted by the football team, he was accepted by the entire school. That became the norm. Just because this team decided to make him feel welcome, guys. And all of us have that same power, right? And look, if people are bullying us, if they are showing us this hate, they're probably hurting inside, right? And we have to be able to show them love. I had a 6th grader, are my 6th graders here today? Okay, hands down. I had a 6th grader named John, and he sent me a message on Instagram 2 weeks after I spoke at his school. He told me he got tripped by this bully in the hallway 2 weeks after I spoke. And he fell down, and he got right back up, and he walked over to the bully, smiled at him, shook his hand, and said, "Have a great day." And he walked away. And the bully's mouth, as he's shaking his hand, just dropped. He was like, and everybody watching, their mouths dropped, because they were all expecting him to run away, or to try to fight back and fail, or maybe cry. But he did the opposite, and the thing that this bully needed the most, he showed him love. And that took a lot of guts, right? And what he did too is he got his power back, and he took away the bully's power over him. And hopefully started to allow for healing to happen in this person's heart, right? And listen, on the other flip side, if someone around us is getting bullied, we have to do what's right and stand up for them. And it's not tattletaling. You heard of Irene. Stuff stayed on her heart for over 90 years. So when it comes to your safety, it's not tattletaling. I had an 8th grade girl, and she sent me this message. And she had a boyfriend. And they broke up. And he started calling her names, very bad names, in the hallway in front of almost the entire school, right? And so I sent a message to the counselor. And it was getting so serious, some of the stuff he was saying, that they had to pull a police officer in, and the parents, and the 2 students, the boy and the girl, but the bullying stopped. And 2 weeks later, I came back to have lunch with the students, and her name was Lacey. She came running up to me crying, and she said, "Mr. Peace, you saved my life. Thank you." So guys, all of us have that power, but even before having to respond to bullying or stand up for somebody, the biggest thing we can do is to not let it happen in the first place. Can I get a volunteer? I wanted to show you one thing. I'll take you. Yeah. Give a round of applause. Tell me your name. Chris. Good to see you. So listen, Chris, do you shave? Okay. Listen, all right, so listen, here's what I want you to do. In this bucket, okay, I want you to spray a healthy amount of shaving cream into this bucket, okay? Yeah, keep going there. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Yep, keep going. Okay, that's good, that's good, that's good. All right, now let's just show our viewing audience 1 second so they can make sure they see some of the shaving cream in here. Okay, all right. Everybody see that? Okay, all right, okay. So listen, now, Chris, can you roll your sleeves up? Roll your sleeves up. Close your eyes. I'm joking, don't do that. But listen, why don't you take this bucket and this can of shaving cream, and you have 10 seconds to get the shaving cream back into the can. Ready, go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and... Oh boy. Oh, we got this. Oh boy. All right, give a round of applause. Give Chris a round of applause again. Think about it. So listen, I appreciate you making the sacrifice, thank you. Listen, here's the idea though, right? Whether it's shaving cream or toothpaste, once it's out of that can, it's virtually impossible to get back in. If we had more time and the right technology, we could probably do it. But it's the same thing with our words and our actions. Once they're out, even one action, and bullying's over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? But even the one-time actions can still stay in someone's heart for the rest of their life, right? I had a kindergartner said, Mr. Peace, you won't believe it, I'm getting bullied. I said, when did it start? They said 10 minutes ago. I said, okay, it's probably not bullying, but it's just as important because the one-time words, the one-time actions, once they're out, it's so hard to take them back, guys. So we have to treat each other, everybody, as a family. And some of you guys follow me on social media, on Instagram, it's Mr. Peace Geese. You go to the next slide. And people want to ask me, why geese, Mr. Peace? Why geese? Can I get some more volunteers? Get some more volunteers. I'm only going to call on you if you're sitting on your bottom, respectful, quiet, nice and easy. All right, we'll take you, we'll take you. Yeah, you can come too. And we'll take, let's take back there. And I'll take, the black shirt right there. Yep, I'll take there. All right, give these guys a round of applause. All right, so look. I'm going to have you stand up here. Come on over here. Yep, right here. You stand right there. I'm going to have you go right here. Okay, wait, right here, right here. You come over here. Okay, right here. And then let's have you go here. Okay, that's good. And you go right here. Okay, so listen. We know that, you gotta step up a little bit. We gotta make that V look good. Okay, so we know that geese fly in the shape of a V, right? You guys learned this watching the Mighty Ducks, hopefully. But listen, the idea is geese, we can learn a lot of lessons about how we treat each other from geese. Because watch. If you guys didn't know this is some pretty interesting stuff. If a goose gets hurt or gets sick, right? So let's first have you guys start flapping a little bit. Can we get a couple honks? You gotta. Okay, a little bit. Okay. All right. So listen. If a goose gets sick or gets hurt, okay, and he kind of flies down and has to, you know, get himself back together. Two geese always follow that sick or hurt goose out of the flying V. They will follow that goose. Come on over here. Okay. Your fellow goose. Okay. And they will stay with that goose until he feels better, and then they'll get back with the next flying V set of geese that are coming through, and then they'll pick back up with that group. But they will actually come to the aid of this person who's feeling down. Kind of like a buddy system, right? And make sure that this person feels better, feels safe, before they finally start going again. So then they come back into the flying V. Okay, let's go back in there. Go to your goose spot over there. Okay, thank you so much. All right? And listen, you know that geese honk, right? And listen, the whole reason they honk that they honk is actually to encourage each other. So the geese that are honking, Mitchell, are usually the geese in the back, and they're trying to cheer on and encourage and uplift the goose who's at the front, right? And what's so cool about this too is that this makes this goose want to be better for his whole family. And the same idea is that if one goose starts to say, you know what, I don't really need this family, I'm going to do it on my own, so you just want to flap over here. When you start going on your own, it's 70% harder for this goose to fly alone than it is with the flying V. It's that much easier with the wind resistance that this goose, if he starts going alone, he'll do it for maybe a couple seconds because he realizes how hard it is alone, and he comes back to his family. These are the lessons from geese and how we can actually treat other people, include them, uplift them. Give it up for these geese. So look, so Mitchell, all the stuff that I'm talking about though, all the stuff that I'm sharing with you guys, all of this stuff takes a lot of courage. I got a friend of mine named Pat. A friend of mine named Pat, and I remember being back in 5th grade. Where my 5th graders at? Okay, hands down, hands down. And I was back in 5th grade. Listen, I was back in 5th grade, and I was on recess. And we were playing soccer. You guys play soccer anyway? Okay, hands down, hands down. Listen, we were outside on recess, and we were playing soccer. And I remember the bell was just about to ring to come back inside. And my friend Pat was on my team, and he was playing goal. And I remember Pat kind of being like Kate. His parents didn't have a lot of money. He was always getting teased because he had to wear the same outfit sometimes a few times a week to school. And he wasn't that good at sports. He was always getting put down because of that. And he was in net. And right before the bell rang, Pat let in the game-winning goal. And I remember what happened. Everybody on my team, they surrounded him, like they huddled around him. They said, "What's the matter with you? How could you even let that happen? You're a loser." And they kept saying stuff. One guy put his foot behind him, sidestepped him. The other person pushed, and Pat fell down on the ground. And I remember what I did clearly, guys. I stood there, and I watched, and I did nothing. Because I was too afraid. I was too afraid that if I stood up for Pat, that I wouldn't be accepted anymore. I wouldn't fit in anymore with my so-called friends. But you see, I was popular, I was well-liked, I was good at sports. I could have told those guys to knock it off and they would have listened to me. I could have got help from a supervisor or a principal and they would have stopped it. But I was too afraid. So it takes courage to do what's right. And you know what, Pat? We got dinner about 5 years after high school, and he said, "Hey, Mr. Peace, I needed you. I needed you back in elementary school, back in middle school, back in high school, and you weren't there for me." And guys, it hurts me to hear that. It hurts me to hear that. Now we're best friends. Sometimes he actually comes and speaks with me. We've formed a few anti-bullying clubs all across this country. But the whole idea is that to do what's right sometimes is not the easy thing, right? But we always have a choice. We always have a choice. Can you go to the next slide? I would just skip through a couple. Keep going. Keep going. Guys, we always have a choice. And you know what else? We have to do this because the need is here. You guys remember when I shared about the M on your palms? That M stands for miracle, right? Well, listen, there was someone that just drew me something. He was in a middle school. He was in a middle school. And he was getting bullied really badly. And it breaks my heart to share this with you guys. But he was getting bullied really badly. And he drew me this fist, because that's as big as our heart. He drew me this peace sign. He put the M on his drawing. But he said, "Mr. Peace, you gave me something I've been searching forever to find. A reason to stay." He basically said, "If you didn't come today, I might not be here tomorrow." Because he was getting bullied that badly. And he actually had thoughts of checking out. See, guys, this is why we have to help people out, right? There was a student who gave me this jacket. A student gave me this jacket. This is like my Mr. Peace swag, right? See right there? But her story, she made me this with like the peace sign on there, see? But her story was that she only had 1 or 2 friends at school. And they all came from like some rough childhoods. So a lot of times her 2 close best friends, they were absent quite a lot. They had problems going on at home. And if her two friends were absent, she felt so alone and so scared that when it came time for lunch, instead of trying to go sit next to someone else and make a new friend or sit at a new table, she'd get her lunch and she'd head straight to the women's restroom and she'd go in one of the stalls and lock it and she'd eat her lunch alone. And this sometimes happened for weeks when people were gone, and it breaks my heart because I'm thinking to myself, why didn't somebody see her crying out for help, being in pain? Why didn't somebody try to help her out? But I get it because we got so much else going on in our hearts. But unless we forgive others, forgive ourselves, ask for forgiveness and start to heal, we can't be all in to help other people, right? And I was speaking in San Diego back in April, right after I spoke at your school. I went to San Diego and I spoke at an elementary school in California. And after my talk, I had 50 students crying, wanting to come up to me to share their hearts. And this second grade African American boy came up to me. He said, Mr. Peace, my classmates are saying, go back to where you were born. Go back to Africa. He said, I don't understand. I was born in Los Angeles, California. I had this first grader Hispanic boy. He came up to me and he said that his classmates are saying, speak English. He said, I don't understand, Mr. Peace. I'm talking English to you right now. This kindergartner, this Asian boy came up to me crying. He said, Mr. Peace, my classmates are saying, open your eyes. He said, Mr. Peace, this is how I'm born. I don't understand. Guys, the need is there. We have to help people, and we always have a choice. I was talking at this elementary. I came back 2 weeks later after spring break to have lunch with the students. And I walk in the cafeteria, and I'll be here today for lunch too with you guys. But I walked into the cafeteria, and this first grader, this 7-year-old Trey, he's about this tall. He saw me from across the lunchroom, and he said, oh my God, he's like, oh, it's Mr. Peace, Mr. Peace, come here, Mr. Peace, hey, Mr. Peace. And I was like, Trey, what's going on? Hey. He said, Mr. Peace, do you remember when you told us to treat people with more love and compassion and respect and kindness? I said, yeah. He said, well, I went home that night and I asked my dad to start treating me, my mom, and my sister with more kindness and respect and love. And he told me his dad looked at him and said, don't you ever talk to me like that. I'm an adult. Don't you ever talk to me like that. And he walked past him. A week later, he actually took off. There was a lot of other issues going on. But Trey came back to school on fire. He was enraged. He said, Mr. Peace, people will feel my pain. People will feel my heart. And I looked at him and I said, Trey, you still have a choice to be a great son to your mom, to be a great brother to your sister, and one day if you choose to break that cycle, to be a great father. And our eyes are locked. And I see a tear coming down his cheek. I'll never forget his next words. He looks at me and he says, I'd like chicken. And I said, what? He said, yeah, Mr. Peace, they're serving chicken tenders for lunch. They're bomb. You got to try them. I said, what? And this first grader's mind was already on to the next topic, right? But he got it because I came back 2 weeks after that. And he saw me in the hallway, he came running up to me, gave me a hug. He said, Mr. Peace, I'm choosing love. I'm choosing kindness. And this is a 7-year-old. If a 7-year-old can do this, right? All of us can do this. And look, I had a third grader come up to me. Her name was Natalia. And she came up to me and she said, Mr. Peace, what makes you happy? She said, what makes you happy? And I said, well, doing what I love. And she's like, well, because I haven't been happy for a long time. And this is a girl named Natalia, right? And then she gives me this at the end of the day. And this is after I told her that she's still a beautiful person and that sometimes your friends, your family even, it's not just your blood, it's people that really care about you, your true friends. She came back and she said, and she wrote this, and it says, love Natalia, but she said, don't let the world change your smile. Let your smile change the world. Isn't that sweet? That she was starting to actually focus on this and do what's right. And there's a story about a 4-year-old, this 4-year-old girl, and there was this speaker who was talking about how love is as big as the world, as big as the earth, but it's within all of our hearts. So this 4-year-old came up to the speaker after his talk and said, I don't get it. If love is as big as the world, but it's in all of our hearts, doesn't that mean that it's just trying to burst out? And he said, that's exactly the point. But we choose that, right? Can you go to the next slide? Guys, this is something that's really heavy on my heart. This is Quincy Hope. He was 14 years old. And I was just brought into another middle school to speak in Michigan, to bring some healing. The bullying actually got so bad in his life that he ended up taking his life. And I'm trying to still share his story to make sure he didn't die in vain and to honor his legacy. But I want to show you how serious it is to keep showing love, to keep showing kindness. Can you go to the next slide? This is Evan Ramsey. Go to the next slide. And the reason I wanted to share this with you, and I know you guys are the older students here at this school, so you were mature enough to handle this, but he was the first school shooter in Alaska. And he's 36 years old now. And back in 1997, when this building was built, right here at Mitchell Middle School, he ended up taking the life of a principal and a student because he got bullied so badly. But the reason I'm bringing this up, they went to interview him this year, 20 years later, and he's serving 2 life sentences. He'll be in jail for the rest of his life. But what he said if just one person, if one teacher said that they cared, if just one student said that they cared, he wouldn't have done it. That's why it's so important for us to include other people, to be a friend, to be there for them, to make sure everybody's part of this family. Can you keep going to the next slide? See guys, now I have a new motivation. I told you about some of the pain in my life and some of the death last time I came and spoke. But since I came and spoke, I've had some more death. This is my Aunt Linda. She was 80 years old. She passed away before Memorial Day in May. Next slide. This is my Uncle JC. He was 81 years old. He died not even 24 hours after she passed. Next slide. Our neighbor, where I live, was 22 years old, Shelby Seaburn. And she was the victim of a road rage accident near Detroit, Michigan. Car hit them going 85, the car flipped twice. Her and her best friend died. She was 22. She just graduated college. And her graduation party was the day after. Next slide. And my friend Egypt, Covington. She was from Belleville, right outside Detroit. The reason I performed that first song today was because she was supposed to be on that song. But she can't be anymore. She was murdered back in June. She was shot. They still haven't found out who did it. But see guys, when I went through some of this pain before, I shut down. I became numb, I stopped feeling. But now, all of this is a new motivation for me. This is more fuel to my fire to make sure they didn't die in vain. The best way to honor their legacy is by how I choose to live today. By treating others with love and kindness and respect. Can you go to the next slide? And to focus on the solution, which was love. See guys, look, there's always going to be this fear, hate, violence, racism, but we have to focus. Give me 5, 4, 3, 2, peace, thank you. We have to focus on the solution. That's love, right? Next slide. And Mitchell, if you guys live to be 80, hopefully we're still kicking it, right, when you're 80. Listen, if you live to be 80, you'll have taken on average 23,000 breaths per day. 673 million breaths over the course of your life. 673 million. Heartbeats, 3.4 billion. 115,000 a day. The idea is to make as many of those count as possible by how we treat others. But it's up to you. You have the choice. Next slide. And Mark Twain once said, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day the Detroit Lions win a Super Bowl. No, but and the day that you find out why. And if you look to your left and your right, and behind you and in front of you, this is why. These people around you, Mitchell, these people around you, they're part of your purpose. They're part of why you're here. To help them, to be a best friend to them, to include them, to look for the good in all of them, and to treat them like you would treat people in your family, to love them, right? And we have this choice. Last slide. I've had different schools reach out to me, and I mean, this is just amazing what you guys have done to welcome me. But all guys, we also never forget, with the lines on our hand, that we are true miracles, right? That on each of our palms, sometimes both, sometimes just one. You guys already drew them today, thank you for doing that. But we remember that we're miracles. Our worth, our value, and never let anybody tell us that we're not worth something. Last slide, too. So if you guys want to reach out to me again, past today, I'm going to be giving, give me 5 guys. I'll wait 1 second. Give me 5, we're almost done. Thank you guys, you guys have been great. I'm going to be giving your cards to my cards again to all your teachers. If you didn't get one, they can make some copies for you guys. We'll have some more shirts for you guys too. And my website's here to download my music, social media to reach out to me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. I don't always get back to you right away, but I'll always get back to you. Let you guys know that you're beautiful, that you're miracles, if something's on your heart, right? So listen, just to kind of recap what we talked about today, you guys have a choice. If you choose to use your power and influence, you know who you are in the school, to build others up or to destroy. And you know what's crazy? I peeled this orange. Actually, this is the calendar peeled it for me, thank you. But I peeled this orange earlier, and what's so crazy about these oranges is that as soon as you start to peel it, it gets on your hands. And then that smell, it like doesn't go away for a while, right? And it starts to just spread. And that's the same thing as love, as kindness. That we have this decision to spread this too. And you guys touched my heart. If something I shared today again touched your heart, can you raise your hand? Something I shared touched your heart. Okay, hands down. So that means you guys were given a gift, Mitchell. And now it's up to you to go and share that gift with someone else. By how you guys live. I'm going to close with some hip hop again. What is that going to do? Gotta get my zone. Alright, teachers. Teachers, I'll be sending some follow-up resources to continue the conversation. 2 fingers up for peace. Listen, it's up to us all to put a stop to the bull in the classroom halls and within these walls. I want to go to school no matter the grade. I feel safe, I feel loved and celebrated. So I gotta put myself in the other person's shoes. Cause what I said, my words stay stuck like glue on the other person's heart. And that's just not nice. I gotta stay the big show for what I know is right. If I see someone get holy now, think of us rapping. Do what I can, all that I can to take action. Now is the time, and it's open the town. And I don't know what to do.
Hey guys, I know I can speak for Mr. Gentile as well. Nothing makes us happier as leaders of the school when we see people here in our family, and that's all of you, treating each other with respect and kindness. That certainly puts a smile on our face. That's what's expected. We love all you guys, the fact that you're here. Mr. Peace, didn't he give a great message today? Wasn't that awesome? And I love when he says, peace in. That's awesome. When you walk away today from this auditorium, think about how you want to treat other people, and you have choices all the time. Like Mr. Peace said, you know, you can choose to treat each other with love and kindness, and that's what we expect you guys to do, and we love when we see it. Thanks again. Let's give Mr. Peace a round.